Brutality and medieval fantasy certainly seem to be made for each other. Putting together hand-to-hand combat with blunt metal weapons of the Bronze Age with all of the macabre of the visceral, violent combat style of a game like Dying Light makes a lot of sense. Fortunately for gamers who enjoy this type of thing, Dying Light developer Techland agrees, and seems to have gotten fairly far along in development on a game that apparently aims to reflect this philosophy: Hellraid. Hellraid promised to be an intense hack-and-slash first-person game with the same engine that powered Dying Light, a game that showed the true acumen of Techland to nail first-person combat better than most developers have. Unlike Dying Light though, Hellraid was going to be set in a fantastical medieval world similar to the Elder Scrolls universe. Here, Hell has found its way into this realm and must be beaten back by you and potentially up to 3 friends with gory first-person combat, magic, and alchemy. Think Hexen meets Warhammer Vermintide. Immediately upon its announcement, the game garnered a rather fervent fanbase of gamers ready to eat the experience up, and understandably so. However, it's been several years since Hellraid has been talked about or even really mentioned in any official capacity since the game's reveal all the way back in 2014's E3. The game was touted in a trailer to feature a full-fledged single-player story mode, missions mode, and an arena mode, all of which could be played on your own as well as with others via multiplayer co-op. Progress would funnel into a class-free skill tree, as well as unlocking various customizations for your characters, further adding to your ability to nudge whatever class you choose to being closer to the way you want it. The ability to craft your own weapons and slowly build up towards fighting bigger and badder hellish foes was also seemingly a nice plus that would encourage repeated playthroughs and advancement. However, that was all the way back in 2014, back when they were saying the game would be released the following year, 2015. If you are at all familiar with Hellraid, you likely recognize its visual tone as one that most modern games aren't quite willing to touch. Hellish ghouls, violent combat, and online co-op aren't exactly in line with the zombie games, futuristic shooters, or battle royale games that most developers know will make them money easily and quickly. And perhaps this is part of the problem here. Going in a direction that is less likely to produce an easily quantifiable and dependable profit is a riskier and riskier endeavor for game developers these days, as more and more jobs and capital depend on the success of every single project. That being said, Techland believed in this particular project at least long enough to get a fair amount of work done on it, and what they were able to get done looked great. Violently swinging a mace around, smashing skeletons into bits, and hacking away at goat demons with your friends while medieval villages burn down around you evokes a tone and a feel that few games can compare with these days. From footage that has already been released on Hellraid's official YouTube channel, it does appear that the game's navigation system, combat systems, and most of the in-game assets have already been created, and the game really looks like it might only need another year or so of polishing and tweaking to be a finished product. This is a stage that most games don't get to if they're ever going to get canceled, so it probably is fair to say the game isn't going to get canceled. It's more of a question of when we'll get it than if, and that's a good thing for those of us who are excited by its premise. That being said, the fact that it's far along doesn't really answer all of our questions though, as the game has, according to Techland, been put on hold and given a back seat to Dying Light 2, which is also not a fabulously good piece of news. This is of course after it was relegated to being a digital-only game, which in and of itself is probably an admittance to the game's less than satisfactory nature in some eyes. Even still, despite not quite meeting Techland's expectations at its current state, the game has not been officially cancelled. Dying Light 2 is now likely taking up Techland's time. It's hard to imagine getting any form of Hellraid before the next generation is in full swing, as we are in 2020 and a new crop of consoles looms on the horizon. One can theorize that Hellraid isn't really aiming for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One anymore. If the assumption that Dying Light 2 is taking up the team's primary talent and resources is true, then there will be almost no point at all in targeting current consoles and PC specs for Hellraid. This means that if and when the game does get revived, it will take a whole new round of texture work and asset updates to have it fit in with the expectations of the time in which it releases. Knowing current development cycle's time-consuming nature, This could easily end up being another couple of years of Techland's time to get done, so in short, all potential Hellraid fans should get ready to hurry up and wait. However, there is something to be said about the fact that Techland was so willingly touting the game's release the following year from its announcement. It's not very common for big games to have release dates that soon after an announcement, or even have a release window at all. To do this, they must have had some sort of confidence about it for some reason, whether that was because of its combat, its story, or some other element. Techland had a reason to feel encouraged about Hellraid and tell news outlets that it would be releasing in a year. Many games are announced multiple years before their release date is even vaguely known, let alone the following year. This could mean that the game, while put on hold, could be closer to being ready than we realize. After the year or so of updating the assets for current consoles is done, perhaps it could be ready to ship. Perhaps this game is just lying in wait for Techland to pull the trigger after their next game releases, giving them a nice 1-2 punch of games to put out in the next generation. Whatever is happening with Hellraid, the good news is it's not dead. It's just on the back burner while Techland finishes up its work on a more reliable franchise, after which they will probably be in a better financial position to invest in something a little newer, a little riskier, and a little crazier. That's it for this video. If you enjoyed and would like to see more, feel free to hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell to ensure you'll be notified when new videos go up.